The High Republic era took place 500 to 100 years before we first meet the Jedi Order in The Phantom Menace, and later see them fight in the Clone Wars. The new Star Wars live-action TV show The Acolyte takes place in that era. The High Republic is referred to as High because it was an era of enlightenment, hope, and prosperity for the Republic and the Jedi Order, which was fairly different from who we see them as during the prequel trilogy. The Jedi will play a massive role in the Acolyte, so in this video we'll go over what the Jedi Order looked like during this period. This is what hope is. It isn't pretending that nothing will go wrong if only we try hard enough. It's looking squarely at all the obstacles in the way, knowing the limits of our own power and the possibility of failure, and moving ahead anyway. That is how we must proceed, with hope. Jedi Master Stellan Gios, 230 BBY. During the early centuries of the High Republic era, the Galactic Republic was in a constant state of expansion, and the Jedi helped them expand their influence. Over 500 years, the galaxy had completely recovered from the wars fought between the Jedi and Sith, and an age of exploration began. Hyperspace routes were not nearly as widespread during this time, leading to hyperspace prospectors becoming a common sight during the time between 400 and 300 BBY. The Jedi were involved through official Republic prospector crews called Republic Pathfinder teams, which consisted of a Jedi Master and Padawan, a pilot and a mechanic. This is an example of something that was much more common in the High Republic compared to the Jedi of the prequels. They were much more involved with the common people of the galaxy. They responded to distress beacons and were more open to unsanctioned activities. Jedi traveled more, not just on Council missions, but around the galaxy in general, helping where they could and being less restrained by the Council's decisions. This manifested itself in two major ways during the era. During the High Republic, Jedi Knights or Masters who felt like their will and plans weren't aligned with that of the Council could declare themselves to be Way Seekers. Way Seekers were Jedi who were absolutely free to do whatever they wanted in service of the Force. They were often more meditative and thoughtful about their actions, and how they individually served the will of the Force, helping citizens of the galaxy wherever they saw fit, operating out of their own ships. Way Seekers were often known to bring peace to planets engulfed in conflicts, or aid in revolutionary activities against tyrants and dictators. Way Seekers, while permitted, operated in defiance of the Council, and the idea was phased out by the end of the High Republic era, with a distinct threat to the Jedi causing them to become much more insular, as a young Obi-Wan thought when he found records of a Way Seeker named Orla Jareni. Orla Jareni is the most prominent Way Seeker in the High Republic books and comics. She's an Umbaran Jedi with a white-hinged, double-bladed lightsaber containing healed ancient kyber crystals. She flew a ship called the Lightbringer, and helped in the Jedi and Republic's conflict against the Nihil and Drengir threats during the era. Way Seekers aligned with a much less strict idea of what a Jedi should be, and felt that allowed them to be more in tune with the will of the Force. When Obi-Wan first learned about them, he thought to himself that if the idea was still around, Qui-Gon would have absolutely opted to be a Way Seeker. Something else rather unique about the High Republic when compared to other eras of the galaxy is the Jedi's presence across the galaxy. Jedi temples were not just on Coruscant. There were temples on planets all over, including many on the frontier of the Outer Rim, where Jedi would be trained and stationed in order to more adequately meet the needs of their specific sectors. During the conflict with the Nihil, many temples became focal points for Outer Rim-centered campaigns, such as the Elfrona, Banshee, Tanalorr and Takodana temples, all of which were the focus of Nihil attacks. These temples provided good contact points for the Jedi during this era, especially during earlier parts of the era when communication across large swathes of the galaxy was very slow. Over the course of the history of the Jedi, the more frontier-focused Jedi temples were phased out for several reasons, all of which came to the forefront during the later parts of the High Republic era. By the time of the Acolyte and later the Prequels, more remote Jedi temples were much less common, but could still be seen occasionally as remnants of the High Republic era. In 232 BBY, the Republic and Jedi jointly opened Starlight Beacon, a gigantic mobile space station that included a Jedi temple in its central spire. Throughout the early Nihil crisis, Starlight operated as a mobile center of operations for the Jedi, moving to wherever they needed aid until it was destroyed through sabotage. One of the core elements that differentiates the Jedi Order of the High Republic from the Jedi of the prequels is their general attitude and strictness as an organization. While still steadfastly committed to forbidding attachment and following the light, as proven by the existence of Way Seekers, the Order was far less strict in many ways. For example, Jedi of the High Republic all viewed the Force in more varied ways. Avar Kriss saw it as a song, and her actions would be harmonious or dissonant with it. Stellan Gios saw it as the vastness of the stars in the sky, and the Wookiee Buyaga saw it as a great tree. The Jedi seemed to be more understanding of other perspectives, and more willing to cooperate with those within their ranks who were struggling with things like the dark side of the Force. The Jedi would take very good care of themselves, allowing time, space, and companionship for those going through difficult times. The Order even in some cases extended their care to other Force sensitives who did not have a home of their own, as was the case for Zeen Marala, a young Mikian who lived and worked with the Jedi after her home was destroyed in a hyperspace disaster. The Jedi were also seemingly more inclined to romantic attachment, or at least romantic endeavors. As Padawans, Elzarman, Stellan Gios, Avar Kriss, Lula Talisola, Sav Maligan, Kevmo Zink, and more were known to have had casual romantic partners. The Order still frowned upon this, but sometimes the Jedi even found solace that their romance was simply an expression of their universal love, as Anakin would explain it in Attack of the Clones. The High Republic era, though regarded as an era of widespread peace and justice for those living under the Republic, was not without threats aimed at both the Republic and the Jedi. As peacekeeping agents in the galaxy, the Jedi came into contact with lots of different groups of people with different views and beliefs during this period. In 382 BBY, early on in the High Republic, a master and apprentice duo were sent to the agricultural planet Dalna, where they came into contact with a cult called the Path of the Open Hand. This group believed in and revered the Force, but thought using it was heretical and dangerous. When members of the Path met the Jedi, they were horrified at their usage of the Force, and used mystical creatures from a lost planet called Planet X, known as the Nameless, to turn the Jedi into dust. These creatures deeply affected Force users, and prevented them from feeling connected to the Force, killing them while showing them their greatest fears. The Path of the Open Hand became a consistent threat to the Jedi, and the Nameless killed several Jedi in the Battle of Jeddah before the Jedi were able to track the Path back to Dalna, where a confrontation happened. The Path had also become more radicalized, and a large and confusing battle broke out during a storm, leading to many Jedi deaths at the hands of the Nameless and many Dalnan deaths at the hands of terrified Jedi. The people of Dalna regarded this night as a great tragedy, calling it the Night of Sorrow, and leading to a deep distrust of the Jedi on the planet. Soon after, Jedi High Council members conspired to completely cover up these events out of deep shame for their actions, and a fear of a rediscovery of the Nameless. Meanwhile, a few surviving members of the Path retreated into the vast Outer Rim to rebuild, led by a young woman named Mada Ro. 150 years after the Night of Sorrow, in 232 BBY, the Jedi encountered another foe, the Nihil. The Nihil were a pirate gang that rose out of the ashes of the Path. They had access to unexplored hyperspace routes, and caused chaos for the Republic, using their Nameless to kill several Jedi, led by Marchion Ro, a descendant of Mada, who held his family's grudge against the Order. Seeking to cause as much chaos as possible for the Jedi, the Nihil would often play off the Jedi's desire to save everyone in every situation, using toxic gases to cause fear and confusion on the battlefield. During this same time, the Drengir crisis began as well. The Drengir were a hive-mind species of plant monsters who fed on flesh and were connected to the dark side of the Force. They were accidentally freed by a group of Jedi and needed to be combated by the Jedi on the galactic frontier. In order to fight the Drengir, the Jedi aligned themselves with the Hutt armies, and though the two groups butted heads, they cooperated enough to subdue the Drengir threat for good. After the Drengir's defeat, the Nihil, who had seeded the Drengir around the Outer Rim to cause more chaos, attacked the Republic Fair and destroyed Starlight Beacon, all before sectioning off an entire section of the Outer Rim for themselves. Called the Occlusion Zone, This group of sectors was unable to be transmitted into or out of, and ships could not travel into the zone without specific nihil hyperdrives that could pass through a hyperspace barrier called the Storm Wall. Several Jedi were trapped inside the occlusion zone, and became much more like wandering way seekers, trying to help innocent people stuck under the heel of the nihil wherever they could. There were many notable Jedi in that era. We're going to present a few of them to give you some context. Creighton Sun was a human Jedi Master who was on the High Council around the time of the Battle of Jeddah and faced off against the Path of the Open Hand, experiencing the death the Nameless could bring to Force users. Instrumental in ending the Battle of Jeddah peacefully, Sun was not the most personable Jedi, but was kind and valued protecting life above all else. He conspired with Yoda and other Council members to keep information about the Nameless out of the archives, to prevent it from being used against the Jedi after seeing the horrors of the Night of Sorrows. Aslin Rel was a human Jedi Knight who first found evidence of the Nameless killing his fellow Jedi. He investigated them, but found nothing, and later was present for the Night of Sorrows. He fought Path members and was given horrifying visions by the Nameless, causing him to go insane and abandon the Jedi Order, embrace the dark side, and return to the Jedi hundreds of years later with information about the Nameless and their origins. Porter Engle was an Ekrukian Jedi Master who was known as the Blade of Bardotta during his younger years. One of the best duelists in the history of the Jedi Order, Engle was so proficient with his saber that he could practically defend himself from and take on an entire army, like in the Siege of Gansevoor. He was very close with another Jedi named Barash. The two often worked together until Barash left on a vow that was later eponymously called a Barash vow. Engle continued serving the Jedi into his old age, and became well known for his cooking at the Jedi outpost on Elfrona. He was later stuck behind the Storm Wall and kept fighting the good fight. Avar Kriss was a human Jedi Master who felt the Force as a song that she could hear. A very close childhood friend of Stellan Gios and Elzar Mann, Avar was the leader of the Jedi and Republic's rescue efforts during the Great Disaster on Hetzal, and was a shining beacon of light for the Jedi Order during the era. But through the conflict with the Drengir and Nihil, Kriss became much more clouded in her morality, eventually being so driven that she was making rash and violent decisions to try to end the conflict. After the fall of Starlight, Avar was stuck inside the occlusion zone and was the first Jedi to ever escape it. Stellan Gios was a human Jedi Master and Council member who was the central hero of the Battle of Valo, saving the life of Republic Chancellor Lina Soh. He was a noble and kind Jedi who wielded a blue crossguard lightsaber and was something of a public icon for the Order. Tasked with investigating the nameless mystery after the Battle of Grisal, Gios eventually wound up as the Marshal of Starlight Beacon, where he would sacrifice his life to guarantee the station would not crash into the capital city of the planet Irem, saving millions of lives, yet sending Avar and Elzar spiraling after his death. Elzar Mann was a human Jedi Master who struggled much with the dark side. Not much of a rule follower, Mann secretly participated in romantic affairs, particularly on Valo in the lead-up to the Republic Fair and later Battle of Valo. He struggled immensely with pulls towards the dark side, and sometimes succumbed to it despite his best efforts, though he was still dedicated to the light. He was present on Starlight Beacon and felt somewhat responsible for its fall after he killed a regretful Nihil who was actually trying to prevent the station from falling. Mann led efforts to penetrate the Storm Wall and eventually reunited with his friend and former lover Avar Kriss. Venestra Rho was a Mirialan and was one of the youngest Jedi Knights in a generation, passing the trials at only 15, taking on a 14-year-old Padawan named Imri Kantaros when she was only 16. Ruo was cursed by hyperspace visions, giving her strange abilities involving the dimension. Former Padawan of Stellan Gios, deep down, Venestra was not a very conventional Jedi, using a purple-bladed lightsaber that was modified so it could turn into a light whip. As a Mirialan, Ruo was long-lived and appears in the Acolyte as a seasoned Jedi Master. Venestra is set to play a major role in the events of the Acolyte. Keeve Trennis was the human Padawan of the Trandoshan Jedi Sskeer and was later promoted to Jedi Knight and Master during the Nihil conflict. Prone to rash decision-making and swearing, Keeve was a kind, responsible, yet conflicted Jedi who wielded a double-bladed green lightsaber that could be split in two. She fought to protect the light and life against the Nihil, Drengir, and even the Hutts, but eventually fell away from the Order after a heroic career, becoming one of the Lost 20. Master Yoda reflected on Master Trennis's loss as a very sad one. We will talk about the High Republic and Acolyte more in the coming weeks, so make sure you have subscribed and pressed the bell button. Please consider liking and sharing as it helps immensely, and don't forget to comment. We'll try to read and respond to every comment as we want to know what you think about this video and which videos you hope to see in the future. This is the Wizards and Warriors channel, and we'll catch you on the next one.